ICANN organization, we have something which you might call a structural problem. We have a policy development organization, the GNSO, which develops policy for generic domain names. That policy percolates up through the GNSO through what we call a bottom-up multi-stakeholder process, and eventually finds its form in a policy recommendation to the ICANN board. In addition to the supporting organizations, of which the Generic Name Supporting Organization, or GNSO, is one, we have advisory committees to the ICANN board. One of those is the Governmental Advisory Committee. And the structural issue is that the Governmental Advisory Committee gives advice to the board, the GNSO develops and derives and submits policy to the board. So we have the structural setup for a potential collision. And that's been recognized over a number of years. And we now recognize that it's really incumbent on us to start to solve that problem. And so we've begun the work and had a very constructive start to what we've called early engagement of the Governmental Advisory Committee, or the GAC, early engagement of the GAC in GNSO policy development. And to that extent, we've got what we call a consultation group operating with some members of the GAC, some members of the GNSO, and we're starting to scope out the GNSO policy development process, and where in that policy development process there are opportunities for information, and more than information, engagement of the Governmental Advisory Committee and representatives of the GAC to be able to engage with that policy development process. And ultimately their objective is to understand whether that policy being developed has what they call public policy implications. And to the extent that it doesn't, I don't think they have any particular interest in that policy, and it just can follow its normal path. To the extent that it does, I expect that they'll want to flag that, potentially work through it, and work with us as to how that might be resolved. And so in doing so, we have the perfect opportunity to, I wouldn't say redesign, but refine the way in which we work such that we can better work with the GAC.
In addition to these formal efforts or potentially process changes, there's also been discussion about potentially renewing the liaison relationship between the two organizations. Where does that stand?
Well, what the consultation group between the GNSO and the GAC is doing is looking at a number of different mechanisms, both for day-to-day cooperation and for involvement with the policy development life cycle. Now, there have been a number of suggestions. One such suggestion is that there is an opportunity for a liaison from the GNSO into the GAC, such that there is a regular flow of information and the opportunity to interrogate that information, discuss with that liaison what's going on. Now, that may not be the perfect or even the right mechanism. It's one thing that the consultation group is exploring as a way of the two bodies within the ICANN structure working more effectively together.